and Clay presents preclinical data supporting CNMA-8 for the treatment of Parkinson's disease. CLNN.
Good morning. Amazon's gapping up. Anybody know why? Amazon completes Axio acquisition in India. Brian Armstrong wants more than half of daily code written at Coinbase to be AI generated. Oracle cuts hundreds of jobs. I don't see the reason for other than the acquisition. Amazon Satellite Internet Ventures signs up JetBlue as first airline customer. Deutsche Bank, Nvidia surge fuels concerns of a U.S. equity bubble. That's what they always say. It's always a bubble. Oscar looking strong this morning. SNIM has taken a beatdown. Yeah, big base on this thing. No real news on Oscar. MSTR straight to zero. I mean, I gotta value the orange sneakers at something. I gotta put some kind of value on those. Yeah, it's to be just in my opinion, I think Bitcoin is probably going to go for a longer break than people are expecting. And MSTR is already lagging in a big way. I can only imagine like what were to happen to MSTR if Bitcoin goes to, even 90,000. And by the way, that wouldn't even really put Bitcoin in like a serious stage 4 downtrend, like bear market for Bitcoin. Like this little last blip lower was nothing. I actually thought that near April, Bitcoin did a really nice job outperforming the market, having a really tough time breaking March's lows where the market kind of cracked pretty hard. I can only imagine what happens to MSTR if Bitcoin's living at 90 or 80,000. I would suspect MSTR's in a huge amount of trouble. Low 200s for sure. Maybe lower. Maybe lower. With low of day stops, are watching the likes of Hood and SoFi take off. I got to read that again. With low of day stops, you watching the likes of Hood and SoFi take off without you enough to widen your stop, or would doing that be negative EV long term? It depends where you bought it. Like where would you have bought Hood anyway? Like Hood to me still technically is fine if you own it from $50. right? You should be able to hold the first pullback to the 50-day if this is what it's done and you bought it properly. Or even if you bought it, for a new all-time high breakout, $66, and you've trimmed a couple of times into that strength. And if you don't own it at all and you're just looking to get involved in it, I mean, this, canceling based rules basically say that the first retest of the 50 simple moving average as the first correction is typically buyable. So, I'm curious to see if this does, get some support in this area. I'm not sure if it will or if it won't, but, you want to be cautious with names living underneath the 50-day moving average, because something like CrowdStrike, once you break and you start living underneath it for just a little bit, it goes from, bad to worse really, really quickly. Same thing can be said for Palantir, right? I mean, this thing has already made a stupid, ridiculous move up above the 200 simple moving average for multiple quarters. And this is about the length that like any leader will lead. So, it living against the 50 after it's, this kind of impulse move down, you start to really lose 9-2's lows. I would suspect this thing can get pretty dicey. So, wouldn't be totally out of the realm that, this thing goes back to $120. So is it a good time to buy home builders? I thought home builders gave opportunities lower. So, I don't really see super clean setups here that I think will trend for months, but the group itself is acting well. So, just keep an eye on them. And I mean, this is pretty tight, this LEN. I mean, this one's not too bad. This one might be viable. You got Toll, you got Green Brick, you've got KB Homes. These things are all just starting to get above their 200 simple moving average. So could some of these be ready? It's possible. And buying these against their ascending moving averages is probably the best place to limit risk. I would think that what helps home builders perform even better is the 30-year going down. Oh, beautiful. You're still short TSSI? That's gorgeous. Look at this thing. Christmas tree pattern. I thought it would play out a lot like AEVA, and it's done just that. So, and then you've got a Joby. That one kind of hurts me a little bit because, I was trying to short this thing like 17.5. So there's been a lot of nice short ideas out there. You've had to have been really selective because, some of the things that I've shorted have shown strength at like the most inopportune times for me. Like I was short QUBT a couple days ago on 819, and I think I added a small piece, or was it? Gosh, I don't even remember. Hold on. Yeah, 819 and then 821. And I had small ads in here, and then I got stopped out the next day. So kind of sucks. And this thing's gone nowhere. And yeah, I do think that, these quantum stocks are probably end up breaking down, but very slowly too. But yeah, there's been some nice short ideas. Tesla showing a daily trend up. Yeah, but super choppy. Very, very choppy. But yeah, I think so. I'm not buying any EPs today. If you are the believer that the fortunes of AEO have changed just because Sydney Sweeney squeezed her tits into a tight jean jacket, God bless your soul, dude. God bless your soul. I'm not, and if you buy an EP today, you must have not been paying attention to the entire quarter, which is gap ups on earnings haven't really been following through. I'm personally waiting for continuation setups on anything, right? I'm not a buyer of, there have been too many instances where stocks gap up on earnings and then fail on day one. And so I'm not a buyer of earnings gap ups at all this entire quarter. Thoughts on FNMA? I thought the move was yesterday. The time to have bought it was yesterday. It's also an OTC. I mean, this thing has just been, quietly trending pretty cleanly for a while now. But and volume's not that small. It's trading like 80 million bucks every day. Hive, is it just a miner now? I have no idea. I don't know enough about Hive. I mean, honestly, this one just got above its 200. It doesn't look terrible, but after this kind of a move, needs a little bit more sideways than 4 days, 5 days. But it looks like, it looks okay. It's a nice job getting back above the 200, which is the most important to me. Yeah, Baba. I bought PDD yesterday, and yeah, 134 bucks, 134, yeah, 135, right on the dot actually. Yeah, looks pretty good. We'll see if it can get back through that level. I bought PDD yesterday, and obviously you had the gap down on China's cracking down on the they're cracking down on the pump and dumps, right? They don't want any more PTHLs. They don't want any more of this shit, or PCLA, or SK, what is it? SKBL. Yeah, they don't want any more of this. So, or they don't want any more OSTs. But yeah, there's been quite a few of them recently. Nail instead of individual names? Yes, that would be the way I would play home builders. This would also be the way I would play biotechs with LabU. Sound might possibly make a similar move as it did in November of 2024. Why might Sound make a possible move as it did in November 2024? That's the question. Why? It's not the technicals that I disagree with, right? You make a move up, you go sideways for a long time, and then you break out and you make another move up, right? And then you pull back and you make a new base. Are you just solely basing it on technicals, or is there a fundamental reason why this pretty shitty company has to make a move similar to what it did where, it quadrupled, right? Why does this name have to go to 30? APLS is kind of, I mean, let it get into a better established uptrend. It just got above the 200, but yeah, I see what you're seeing. Nice gap up on earnings. That's always nice to see. Nice pickup in volume, nice follow through, nice job getting back above the 200, nice job flagging back out. I mean, yeah, not bad. But it just got above the 200. You won't be missing anything if it goes a little higher without you first. Yeah, I saw Rivian yesterday. Like, what the hell's going on here? Really nice back-to-back days. Yeah, Rivian's been going sideways for a real long time. You know what? ANET, super nice relative strength. Super, super nice relative strength. I'm thinking, if the market remains choppy, I don't really want to engage in too many positions. You got to be a little bit more on the cautious side with engaging into names in a choppy environment. When the market's pulling back or the market's just being sloppy as it is right now, just track relative strength, right? The market's just kind of going sideways here, and we don't really know if like the QQQ or really in particular the NQ ends up breaking this 50-day. I mean, for now it looks okay, but this has just been a sideways market now for a month, which is good. We could use another month of sideways. And in the meantime, ask yourself what groups are acting best. Recently, home builders are acting really well. Solar stocks are acting really well. And then, some Chinese equities have been acting pretty well. And obviously some retail names. I noticed Macy's, obviously American Eagle. Those names don't get me as excited. But, Can't be bearish on Sydney Sweeney. I mean, can we? I'm kidding. But yeah, those need a little time. And then if NVIDIA, yeah, somebody's asking, do I like ALAB? I do like ALAB, but you kind of dig around the market and you look at something like AMD, and you're kind of hanging on to the 50-day here. In fact, you're kind of gapping a little bit under it this morning. You're hanging on to the 50-day. You look at like a KLAC underneath the 50-day. You look at an LRCX underneath the 50-day. You look at ABGO, just bouncing at it, but it's a little getting a little frisky. TSM underneath the 50-day. NVIDIA hugging the 50-day. Things are a little ASML. It's not as strong of a group as people actually think. What was the other one? ASML, ARM. Underneath the 200-day. So I want to be careful because half of ALAB's price appreciation is going to come from it being in a good group. And when it went from 100 to 200, semis were rocking. AMD was doing well, CRDO was doing well, NVIDIA was doing well, TSM was doing well, AVGO was doing well. And then all of a sudden, they all just kind of went on a pause, right? You had ARM report, and you had SMCI report, and Qualcomm's reported, and it's just become a group that's not quite getting the love that you would hope in order to think, ALAB's got another 50% quickly in it. So that's just kind of my thinking. And it could go, but I look at an ALAB and I just think to myself, let it go a little bit more sideways. Let the 50 catch up. This just did a quick 100% move. I do like the way it's flagging out. I do like this, it trying to build higher lows. We're going to keep an eye on it. We'll see if it can get over this 180 level to start. And then we'll kind of gauge how the market and semiconductors are doing at that time. Remember that if like the Qs start to push and semiconductors start to push and ALAB gives you a tight entry effectively over 180, and you can get a move from 180 to 185, that's all that really matters, right? Like my opinion on how much more I love ALAB outside of that is completely irrelevant. And the reason I say that, because your job is just to manage risk in real time. If you get an entry at, call it 180, and it's closing the day at 184, what's your worst case scenario? A stop at prior, at low of day of the day that you bought it? So I take a lot of trades where I end up being flat on it, but I would take a lot of trades just like potentially ALAB. So, it's not that it's a little extended from the 50, but it's not that I hate it. I just don't love the way its group is acting at the moment, right? And the group has been on fire for months, really a long time. And I don't think solars get enough love. I don't think biotechs get enough love. I don't think home builders get enough love. People are so focused on the Palantirs and your NVIDIA and your AVGO and the shit that's already made gigantic moves. It's like sometimes after those gigantic moves, things need to really cool off. The things that have led in the past don't always lead in the future. That's not to say that, ALAB's not in a perfectly clean uptrend. It's just that, focus on where money's going, focus on where money's leaving. And there is definitely some money leaving the semi sector. It's pretty obvious. And and that's not to say it won't come back, but while it's leaving, it just means that it's being reaccumulated possibly, and they're just building bases, and they got to kind of restart the process before they can go higher. AEM, I like it, but you've kind of missed the gold trade, my friend. I mean, I was watching AEM down here. I was watching AEM in here. I mean, I was talking about AEM in here. If you've missed AEM and now you like it, you're doing it all wrong, my friend. Like if now you like AEM and NEM, after it's been going, 11 o'clock, you missed or 1 o'clock, should I say, 11. 1 o'clock, you've kind of missed the whole idea of getting into these things when they're tight against their moving averages. Do I trade Chinese names too? I just bought PDD yesterday, right? Why is it difficult to manage risk? I bought PDD. Look at how many times this thing's been bouncing off the 20-day, right? And I just bought it as it took out prior day high. So I literally bought it yesterday when it took out the prior day high. That's it. Yes, a little bit of a gap down, but it gapped down to my average. No harm, no foul. My stop is low of day. It's really the 20 simple moving average. And that's it. I think TME acts well. I think BABA acts pretty well. I think PDD acts pretty well. I think Futu acts incredible. I don't have to really think about it much more than that. Guys, I'm wrong all the time. The goal here is manage risk in real time by looking for setups that are tight and groups that are getting money. That's it. That's literally it. Dude, I tried shorting Palantir. I was 1 day early. Very annoying. Very, very annoying. I shorted this as a first red day setup on 8/11. I got stopped out the very next day. And then obviously that was a tie. But yes, we lose the 50 simple moving average and we continue to stay heavy, I mean, I would consider it. I just, don't really want to fight this name, man. It's been such a absolute pain in my ass. So, yeah, Reddit kind of a fail yesterday. You had a lot of people, chasing this blip higher, and then you got slammed right away. But I don't like chasing gap ups. And that's kind of what was happening yesterday. So I wasn't really going to chase the gap up on like no real news. And you had a gap up and then you had that quick early morning push. And I was looking for a 5-minute opening range break. And at that point, it was just already up more, it was up almost its average daily range in that first 5 minutes. So no, it was good. ELF and Estee Lauder are acting pretty decent. They've got very similar bases, right? You just get above the 200, you build a fresh base, it looks like it's trying to go higher. 132. So it's already, it's like the highest it's been in a few months almost today. What's the high here? 132.48. So yeah, we're basically there. And then Estee Lauder looks very similar. Makeup. I don't know what the infatuation would be with the makeup, but PSTG, yeah. This name's been super choppy. Yeah, we'll see if this could take out this high volume close. 80.54. It could. How is the stock's relative strength determined? Is it solely a comparison to the S&P 500 or does theme strength factor into analysis? Yeah, so you've got group relative strength, right? And then that will be in comparison to other groups in the stock market. And then you've got a stock's individual relative strength to its peers and other stocks in the stock market. No, I didn't buy Reddit yesterday. So yeah, relative strength is just a measure of stocks within its own group, and then a group, compared to other groups in the market. How do I practically measure the strength of a theme? Well, I mean, there are things that do that for me, right? So you could look at Market Surge, you could look at Deep View, you could look at FinViz, right? And your own eyeballs should be able to do that as well, right? It doesn't need to be on pen and paper for you. You figure that out by scanning the market, right? Like you see a stock breaking down and then you say to yourself, okay, what group is that in? And then you look at the peers in that group and then you say, oh, okay, yeah, that looks pretty poor. That looks pretty poor. That looks pretty poor. And then you notice that, oh, wow, okay, this group of stocks is going up, right? And then you compare that to the market and you say, okay, the market was up today. So you would expect a group in an up market to be up, whatever group that might be. But if it was down as a whole today, then its relative strength line is going down versus the market and the groups that were up. And then you say to yourself, if the stock market is down, right, you would expect groups in general to be down. But if a group was up, then its relative strength line's going up. If a group is down, it's just kind of in line with the market. But the group that went up, its relative strength line is going up. It's getting stronger while other things are weakening. And here's the thing. If the market's getting absolutely crushed today, let's just say it were to go down 3% today, and like 99% of stocks are down. Well, which ones are down 5%? And then which ones are only down 1%? The ones that are up 1% are actually showing more relative strength too. So those are actually outperforming, even though they're also down. So, that's kind of like a good measure. If the stock market's ripping today, it's up 3%, you would expect everything to be up. Well, the ones that are red, those are obvious, but everything should be green in your mind. And what group is up a bunch, and then what group is up a very little, right? The group that's up very little in a ripping, roaring market, those are showing relative weakness. And that is easily seen with your own eyeballs, right? You flick through a 90-day relative strength scan and you just figure out like, okay, what's holding up best today? Or you just go on FinViz, look at groups, see what groups are performing best. That's it. And this is done with months and months and months and years of practice. It gets easier. Your eyeball understands what the hell you're seeing, and that's it. Yeah, ALAB weekly does look really nice. It's just still a little extended from the 50, so I'm not a buyer. Not yet anyway. It looks nice, but you got to think about the group. Yeah, Coupang, this is not looking like the best little move down. You get the gap down, you just get a little bear flag consolidation. Do you break lower? Maybe. Yeah, AVGO reports. And CRDO reported too, and it had a nice reaction. So I'm hopeful that, this will kind of help out the semi group today, but we'll see, right? I'm not buying an earnings gap up in this market. I just refuse to do it. There have been too many gap ups and failures or lack of follow through on earnings gap ups. Is there a correlation between home builders and the solar panel market? I don't believe so, other than solar panels go on houses, but why would there be a correlation there? I don't know. Thoughts on ANET? Well, yeah, maybe a bit wedgy, but really beautiful relative strength, right? Market came down on Friday. This didn't budge. Market gap down, and then obviously it closed pretty decent, and this one held in there really well. And then yesterday, when the market was choppy, this thing wasn't giving anything back. So beautiful relative strength. I don't know if it's going to go higher. I'm not a buyer of this name just yet. Yeah, I mean, TTMI, this thing's acting great. I thought this looked really good in here. A move up, price flattened out, breakout. Here, it's like, it looks fine, but a little volatile here. This price action here literally looks almost like these last few days looks very similar to CLS. I wonder what group TTMI is in. TTMI is electronic components. CLS is electronic components. How about that? Huh. Just based on price action, I deduced that they were in a similar group. How weird is that? And by the way, that's exactly what you'll notice with similar groups, by the way. That price action is very similar. Money goes into a group, money comes out of the group, money goes into a group, and they tend to have very similar price action. It's why I looked at TTMI and I go, I've seen this before, and I just saw it last night when I was looking at CLS. Yeah, I like FSLR. I almost bought it yesterday. But I passed, and I would have been buying it right around that $200 level too. My thoughts on TEM, just let it digest. It's just chopping around here. I don't know what sectors will be in play today to the upside. That's too much guessing for my brain, brother. I have no idea. I just like to react to what it is that I'm seeing. I look at the stocks that I've got on my watch list and my alerts that are set. I take my triggers if they trigger in a good group when the market's pushing higher. I manage my risk to low day with proper position sizing. That's it, man. I think, worrying about and trying to wrap my brain about around what sector will get money and what sector won't. That's me thinking about the wrong stuff, man. That's not going to move the needle on my portfolio. I'm just here to react to what institutions are doing. I'm not here to pretend I know. Do I have an opinion, right? Or maybe a fairly good idea as to what may or may not get some money on certain days? Yeah. Based on technicals and based on how the general market's acting and based on how a group is acting, I could have told you 10 days ago, like I was saying, that gold was trying to go higher based on what all the stocks in the group are doing, right? But I don't really have a huge edge in trying to predict daily movements. Yeah, biotech. A lot of biotechs recently have been working. No, dude. I look at Tiger and I just say to myself, why? Right? Yes, I understand it's in a nice little uptrend according to the 200, but why would I subject myself to this kind of Chinese torture? Right? Like, look at the daily on this thing. Why would I do that to myself? Right? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? No thanks. Yeah, solar, run, NXT, FSLR, Sedge. Those are the four that I've got interest in. And then I haven't looked at JKS. Yeah, JKS, I believe they're Chinese. And if they get a little bit of love, in particular the China sector, this one could be interesting. And then you've got another one, DQ. Yeah, this one too. So they're starting to shape up above the 200, which is important. So you've got a few names to work with in that solar sector that are starting to look better. FinViz is good. That's one of my favorite resources. Deep View is good too. And Market Surge. The first one's free. FinViz is free. My thoughts on banks. Man, I had JP Morgan perfectly. That's what I think. Yeah, it looks fine. I had JP Morgan right here. Very annoying. Yeah, I mean banks look okay. See Goldman Sachs. Yeah, I mean I don't know if they're going to break down or keep going higher, but for now they still are an uptrend. So I didn't get to that much scalping. I got to 3 million plus scalping. And also it's good to remember environment. I was trading in the hottest trading environment since 1999 and nothing was going down. Every day there was multi-100% gappers on my gap list. I mean, there was sympathy plays galore, and I've talked about that in interviews, so you can go ahead and kind of see how I did that. So yeah, it's just a different environment, and swing trading is much more scalable. Like you want to take a couple $1,000,000 to, you want to take it to 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, 250 million. At that point, you have to get the idea of scalping out of your mind, because you're just not going to want to sit at the desk to make 20, 30K. Like, it's just not going to happen. 50K, 100K, like, it won't matter. But if swing trading, you can get, your $100 million to work for you plus leverage in a good environment, now we're cooking, right? And you can do it safely, now we're talking. So, it's just the best traders in the world, maybe outside of like Lance, they're not recognized as day traders. They're recognized as swing traders, position traders. Like, the best traders in the world, they're known as swing traders. They're not day traders. It's very, 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 very rare. Like, a few, but just they're far few and in between, and it's not the most scalable way to trade. It's just a fact. Thoughts on a short coin? A short on coin. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It looks like, this thing could definitely break down. I mean, we already kind of broke down and have done nothing ever since the earnings gap down. I don't know. I don't want to get too negative on, stuff that's already made a pretty nasty move down. Hims is to not be touched. This chart looks absolutely god awful, dude. This looks horrible. Below the falling 50, resting right on the 200. How long did it take me to become profitable? Less than 4 months. And again, I did so because I was trading in the hottest market ever. I learned about buying pullbacks into prior levels of resistance that now became support. I learned how to read level 2, and I scalped the hell out of the market for really, really small pennies, right? I used to have a quote that said, buy red, see green. So I would basically be looking for price to speed into a level of prior resistance. I would buy the hell out of that with market orders, tight spreads, super liquidity in 2021 and 2020. And then as soon as the tape would pop, I'd be selling. And I just did that over and over and over and over. And then I learned about sympathy plays. And then I just did that over and over and over. So yeah, I became profitable very quickly, but it wasn't because I was a genius. It was because the market I was trading in. Because when 2020, ends of 2021 and 2022 rolled around, and I started to switch to swing trading, I struggled, just like everybody else, right? The benefit was, I had built enough cushion that I could, kind of withstand a drawdown and to just study and learn from Dan Zanger and Pat Walker and Mark Minervini and Pradeep and Christian and, shorting, from Nate and Gil Morales and, just everybody who's kind of laid the foundation for how I am today. Just study what the hell they were doing. So Rocket Lab got crushed yesterday. I think Baba's fine. I think like the little note that China was referring to was like, and NASDAQ was, they don't want pump and dumps. They don't want PTHLs. They don't want OST. What does my ideal stock setup look like? You've got two. You've got high volume closes. So it'll be something like CCL, where it'll have a gap up on earnings. It'll have a big pickup in volume, and then you'll have your closing price. Sometimes you get a little inside day, but then the next day or that second day, you'll get a break through the closing price, and then you'll just get follow through. That's probably my first favorite. And you saw that a few times last quarter with like a Sezzle, right? You got the earnings gap up, high volume, and then the second day you just break through that close, and then you just get the continuation, or a flat base breakout like ARC, right? Where you get just this really nice move up, you get some really nice sideways, and then you get a huge pickup in volume as you're going through the flat pivot. That's it. So, and then you get it in a healthy environment when the market's pushing higher. Any thoughts on solar names? Yeah, I've mentioned them like 10 times now. I think they are acting really well. Where do I think SHLS will go from here? I think this is the shittiest of the shitties. So I don't know. It'll go where the group takes it. Marvell, what do I think? It's the shittiest of the shittiest semiconductors. HNGE is fine. I was looking at this one yesterday. Nice IPO. I mean, decent little setup. I don't know that I love it. It's too thin for me. Chewy. Yeah, it's fine. Not special, but yeah, it's in an uptrend. Thoughts on Lilly? I would avoid. I think it's underneath the 200. Yeah, I mean, I would avoid this thing. It's underneath the 200. Shop holding on for dear life. Yep. My thoughts on Real. It looks good. Too thin for me, but looks good. I'm still liking TNA. I'm liking the idea of TNA and then short NASDAQ. So if you're going to take TNA long, you would maybe also want to be long SQQQ or short TQQQ. Yeah, FNMA, yesterday was the time to buy it, not today. Yeah, Rocket Lab got crushed. Do I scan ETFs? Of course I do. Yeah, I like to figure out where money's going, where money's leaving. No, I just didn't take it. I mean, I didn't see, at the time when this thing's trading in here, right? Especially like in the morning, and I'm like watching this thing, it's trading kind of light volume. Like you see this 5,000 shares, 10,000 shares, 10,000 shares. Like I don't want to be the volume, like half of the volume on a 5-minute bar, right? I don't want to buy 5, 6, 7, 8,000 shares and be like half of the volume of a 5-minute bar. That makes me pretty uncomfortable, usually. So, and I know that at the end of the day, this thing ends up trading a lot of volume, but just like intraday, it's like kind of funky, man. Just not enough. I'll trade something like Meta. If I've got cash in the portfolio and like I'm sitting on cash, I'm not just going to pass up on a nice setup just because it's slow. If you have a smaller account, then maybe you should reserve your cash for, something that moves a little faster. But personally, if it's slower, I'll still play it. How long does a group need to be in the top 40 for me to buy that group? One day. That's it. It just needs, here's the thing. I'll play stocks in group number 57. I don't care. So long as that group is getting love, the market's pushing up, it's got a clean technical setup, and I can manage my risk on the day that I buy it. And I expect it to push away from my average. When does a swing trader lose edge? Is it simply when the index slips below the 10 EMA or something deeper? I mean, as long as the index is above the 10 and the 20, I think it's fine. It could just be a little bit choppy. But below the 50, that's where you would lose edge as a swing trader. But here's the reality. If you're comfortable shorting, you can also swing short. I don't see any issue with that either. Yeah, app's looking good. App is looking strong. I just don't see a setup here for myself, unfortunately. SMR, yeah, I noticed the strength the past 2 days. There was a note out that, hold on, let me see. NewScale proudly supports TVA and Entra Energy announcement of landmark 6 gigawatt small modular reactor deployment program. So, yeah, they've got something going on. I know Nate personally. I don't really focus on his financials, but I know that obviously he's very very talented, incredible. All the superlatives, man, for Nate. He's very very talented, but yeah, I don't know. He doesn't publicize them like Lance has, but Lance definitely deserves the recognition. He's a super talent. Yeah, man. Had I been more patient, I would have actually done better, even from the beginning. Because in 2021, I was scalping for pennies. Imagine had I actually held things for a bigger move. Like, guys, I remember I had 60,000 shares of AMC as a sympathy play, at like $2 and I want to say like 16 cents. I made like 7,500 bucks that day. Had I just waited 5 trading days, it would have been my first 7-figure winner. Okay, guys, I would have made a shit load more money had I been a swing trader in 2020 and 2021. A shitload more. Not a little bit more, a shitload more. Like a $20 million, in that first 18 months instead of what I did. But again, I didn't know any better. And that's the part that matters. Like I needed money and I needed it now. And so I was just scalping. I wanted to go home green every day. I didn't know, I couldn't stomach being up, 7,000, 8,000 bucks and then the next day giving it all back, right? And knowing that, hey, that's just part of the thing. That's just part of trading. Thanks, Werewolf. I appreciate that, man. Thoughts on AMPX? I mean, it doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad. I mean, if it's going to get going, it'll probably do it here pretty soon. Tesla's, fine. It's just choppy. It's a turd. V, is this for Visa? Dude, you don't want to own names that move 1.3% per day. But yeah, it looks fine. MasterCard. Yeah, these things look all right, but slow as ever. ARCT, not that special and too thin. Yeah, I'm still monitoring crude names. I think that they need to digest. The only issue I have with crude right now is, crude just continues to pull back. It's not in an established uptrend at all. But a name like Dino could use a little breather, right? If Dino's doing this when the crude oil market's going down. Like Dino looks great. It would be the first one I'd pay attention to. Shipping sector, so like what? INSW. Yeah, getting back above the 200. DAC, SBLK, Zim. Some better than others. Yeah, too thin and a bit extended. NVO, I don't see there being any reason for you to try to own NVO. No, I don't trade options. I don't need to. Things are, you're just fighting an expiration date and you're fighting a strike price. There's no need. Yeah, I know Steve does. He's in the Discord. And he's also on Twitter. He's a great follow. He does all sorts of stuff to track relative strength. Steve Jacobs. No, I haven't entered Tesla. How do I split my trades? How many simultaneously? It depends how the market's acting. I could take a trade every single day and try to add to my portfolio every single day, but the market needs to be giving me traction on my prior stocks. I could even buy 2 in a day. CMRYBMO. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm assuming a bunch of these are in the Russell. Oh, yeah, these are looking great, dude. They're slow as shit. That's why they don't, come up on my radar. But these are acting amazing. Jose, you probably see a link on my YouTube page. But yeah, Doug, these are acting awesome. Better than the large cap banks. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm interested in Uber. Yeah, I just, needs to just finish basing here for a little bit. I mean, it's in a nice uptrend. It's in a nice uptrend. Ethereum is setting up for a nice run. I mean, personally, knowing what I know about positioning, I think Ethereum's far too crowded. I think Ethereum is far too crowded for me to be interested in Ethereum here. Needs this 50-day to catch up. So either this thing just keeps chopping around or we come and pull back and visit, 4,000 and then, maybe we bounce there. But Ethereum is super, super crowded. All right, guys, I got to get my butt rolling. You guys trade them safely today. Any questions that I didn't answer, I apologize. Bring them up again tomorrow, and we will try to cover them. I will see you guys all bright and early in the morning. Trade them well today. Track relative strength in a down market. Don't trade it, and focus on groups that are going up. Obviously, you can trade relative strength, but make sure that it's in a leading group. So appreciate you guys for showing up. I will see you guys all in the morning.